All right, so in this graph, we're looking at sketching sine, but this time we have a c value in here. So we're shifting our graph, and we're going to shift to the right by pi over 4. So always opposite of what's in the sine. So opposite sign we think about inside the parentheses. So we see our a value and our amplitude is 2. Our b value is 1. So this means my period is going to be just the normal 2 pi. My c value is pi over 4. So we're going to move right pi over 4. So again, always opposite, we think about the opposite sign. And my d value is 3, so that tells me we're going to move up 3. So I'm going to start by thinking about going up 3 and then making sure I have enough room for my amplitude, and I do. So I'm going to put in the principal axis at y equals 3, and then draw in a line for my maximum using the amplitude. So I'll go up 2, and I'll go down 2. And now I have a period of 2 pi, and I've moved to the right by pi over 4. So in my ideal situation, the y-axis wouldn't even be here, and I would just start my sine graph right here, sort of in the middle, because I like to fill up my graph. So I'm going to ignore the fact that this says it's the y-axis, and I'm going to think about adding my y-axis in later. So to me, this is just another line here on the grid. So I'm going to start by plotting my sines starting in the middle, and I know I'm going to go up because a was positive. So I'm going to start in the middle, I'm going to go up, and then back to the middle, down. So just like any other graph. And then I'll come back to the middle, and I'll go the opposite direction. So down, back to the middle, up, back to the middle. So now I know my sine graph has filled the whole graph. And now I'm going to think about my x-axis labels. So we know that we want to have shifted to the right pi over 4. That means this x-axis label has to be pi over 4. I know my total period is 2 pi, so by the time I get back to the middle here, I've gone a distance of 2 pi, so I'm adding that to pi over 4, because I know this distance has to be 2 pi. So this is going to end up being 9 pi over 4. That means that halfway through is a distance of pi. So from here to here, I've gone pi, so this must be 5 pi over 4, because pi over 4 plus pi. Coming back the opposite way, this is a distance of pi, so now I've subtracted pi, so this is negative 3 pi over 4. And over here, I'm going to have negative 7 pi over 4. So I'm thinking that always my distance, I'm thinking back to the period. So a total cycle is going to be 2 pi. Well, if this is 5 pi over 4 and this is pi over 4, that means I'm counting by pi over 4s, which must mean this is where my y-axis was, or is. So now this is my y-axis, which means that over here, for example, this value is negative pi over 4. So I really like to have my graph drawn thinking about adding my y-axis as the very last step.